Thank you so much for coming to our first live forum for Lifestyle Medicine. I'm just going to introduce very briefly and a bit of housekeeping. My name is Annie, and you'll see me. First thing, this this forum is sponsored by Lifestyle Prescriptions Foundation, which is our not-for-profit arm of our training. And well, that's really it. Johannes is it. he's lifestyle medicine, lifestyle.
And he didn't sleep pretty much all night.
And we've had 6 months of building, and I'm so tired. Okay, so past that, the toilets down that way, down the stairs. Fire exit both ways. Follow the signs. Actually, follow us. We're out there as well. Okay, so I'm going to hand you over to Johannes. He's going to start. Okay, and I'll rush out of there.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you so much, everyone. Are we good live? So thank you for being here live, and everyone that is listening to live stream. We have quite a lot of people listening live stream from all over the world, which is exciting. So welcome. Thank you for being here. And as Annie was saying, this is the first prescription lifestyle medicine live forum. And there's a clear intention that we have, which is to bring lifestyle medicine to the forefront, to bring it into people's awareness. Because from my perspective, this is the future. That's where we have to go. So it's meant to be a forum where we share. Actually, let me ask you quickly, who is somehow in healthcare, a healthcare professional? Oh my God, almost everybody. Perfect. Yes, that is what we wanted. And come here, join. It's a place to meet and also to grow awareness. And that is really what we want to do. We probably come back more often here, or internationally we have different events. And what it's really about is this, right? Where in most of our consciousness is that, well, we treat symptoms, right? That's probably what, I don't know, 90% of us out there, people out there, that's what we work on or think about. But, you know, it's like we're mopping up the floor continuously. Somebody comes to us and then, you know, we do symptom treatment and forget to look at the root cause. Whoops, what did I do? There we go, wrong button. So instead of mopping up the floor, we look, well, where's the water overflowing, right? And we turn off the faucet and the body regenerates. That's the idea, that's the concept in a way for lifestyle medicine, to really look at the auto-regulation of our body. And so let me, before Dr. Rob Lawson comes and speaks, I'd like to just have a very short explanation of what lifestyle medicine is, what the research is, and then we go deeper as we go along. So lifestyle medicine is the branch of medicine dealing with the research, prevention, treatment of disorders caused by lifestyle factors such as nutrition, physical inactivity, and chronic stress. Now, in the public perception, I believe it's still mostly about prevention, right? I think a lot of people accept, well, you know, you change lifestyle and you prevent, so nothing's going to happen down the road. But the reality is, it is not just prevention, it's actually about treatment the same way. And treating looking at the root cause. Now, one of the things I want to say, and we want to be very clear about, this is an integrative process, right? I think none of us wants the traditional medicine system to disappear. It doesn't make any sense, right? It is really about improving it, going the next step. How can we improve our healthcare system? And who agrees that we need to improve it? Anyone doesn't? People listening online, raise your hands. I don't see you, but I know you did. So I think we all agree. And I'm talking, you know, there's the Lifestyle Medicine Summit coming up in June. And so I have the pleasure to interview a lot of great speakers, authorities all over the world, and also talking to politicians and people that are stakeholders in this industry. And they kind of all know that something needs to change and improve. The question is how, what, and how are we doing this? And so that's, I think these kind of events bring people together and we explore, and hopefully NHS, or in the US, the healthcare system in every country starts to be more open. Because my vision is that slowly, hopefully fast, this lifestyle medicine concept flows into traditional medicine and enhances it. We're still going to have disease management, symptom treatment. That's all. We need that, absolutely. But we need to expand on this. Research. Well, first, I thought I'm going to show you a lot of research. Research that has been done. But then I said, wait, you know what? Who has online? Everybody's online these days, right? So we can just look it up. On our website, lifestyleprescriptions.org, there's a research tab, and there's some of the main research that has been done is on there. So I'm not going to talk so much about the actual research, because I think we are beyond that stage, really. I talked to Dr. Katz, and he has a nice quote afterwards. And he was saying, he's like one of the main lifestyle medicine experts in the US. And he's saying, we know that for 20 years now, and over the last 20 years, so much research has been done in lifestyle medicine, into the root cause of the chronic health issues, non-communicable diseases, right, as it's called, that the science is clear. So if anyone wants to look at the science, go to the website. There is greenmedinfo.com. There's a lot of great websites now that show the science is there. I think the big question for me and for all of us is, how do we apply it? How do we integrate it? How do we motivate people to actually change? Let me ask you, when you have a health issue or you want to change something in your life that you know would be good for you, how easy is it for you? Hard, right? Change is hard.
But possible.
But possible, exactly. Exactly. And if we have a system that supports us in making these changes, then it's even easier. If more people do it, right? You have this like spiral. More and more people talk about it, say, hey, I quit smoking. I don't drink soda anymore. I sleep. And all these things start to become much easier for all of us. So it's part of changing consciousness, changing awareness. Now, this is a very bold statement, and I read it for the online. It says, lifestyle as medicine has the potential to prevent up to 80% of chronic disease. No other medicine can match that. In addition, it's potentially inexpensive and even cost savings, free of all but good side effects. Safe and appropriate for children, octogenarians alike. It is quite simply the best medicine we've got. Now, this is Dr. Katz, and it's a pretty bold statement, right? Who does agree with that? Oh, that's interesting. But the research shows that, and I'm sure Dr. Lawson, and afterwards we dive more into this, but I want to get your attention. Because if it's really possible that by individually or as a society we change our lifestyle, the key factors, the key root causes, can we reverse the majority, if it's 80% or less, whatever it is, can we change a lot of the chronic health issues for ourselves or for our clients? Okay, something to think about, right? So quickly about the Lifestyle Prescriptions Foundation. We're a nonprofit. It's centered in the US, but we're kind of a virtual company. We're kind of all over the place, but the company is originally in the US. It started 2008 with the National Yoga Month. I don't know, is anybody into yoga? Oh, great. Love it. So you probably heard of National Yoga Month. I hope you did. If not, probably should. It's running since 2008. In the US, it's a national observance, like Breast Cancer Month. It's National Yoga Month, right, since 2008. And so every September, there are events going on, free yoga classes as part of National Yoga Month. And we created it in 2007-08 because there wasn't as much awareness about yoga, and it's so nice to see it's growing, more and more people use it. So that's one of our campaigns that is still going. And the new one, which is starting, is the Lifestyle Prescription or Lifestyle Medicine Awareness Campaign, which is really about inspiring health professionals to bring lifestyle medicine and root cause-based lifestyle medicine into healthcare practices. And this is part of the event, this is part of the campaign and the Lifestyle Medicine Summit in June, coming up in June. So I hope you all join and spread the word and get the word out. So that's from my side to start with, kind of an introduction. We set the stage for this. And I think I'd like to introduce now Dr. Rob Lawson. And well, where do I start? Basically, Rob Lawson, he was for 30 years, I believe, a GP in Edinburgh. And for a long, long time, I think also for 20, 30 years at least, into lifestyle medicine, has 2 clinics in Edinburgh. And one of the main leaders here in the UK, focusing on lifestyle medicine and trying to bring it into NHS and really raise awareness. And currently also the chair of the British Society of Lifestyle Medicine, which is just forming and getting really growing here in the UK. So I'm so glad you're here, that you could make it. I know it's, as Annie was saying, it's a long trip that you had from Edinburgh. Not really, right? And so thank you so much, and give him a warm round of applause, please. Okay? We need both. Yeah, we need both. Just 1 second, we just switched the mic so for online.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I would normally just present, but to be different this time, I've actually brought some notes with me, so I shall be reading. But the reason is that I suffer mild cognitive impairment, but put me in front of an audience and it's suddenly severe. And I get to the end of the presentation and said, hang on a minute, I've forgotten half the stuff I was supposed to say. But it's great coming down to London. It's great coming down to London. I've come down with my wife and we're staying in a hotel in Shepherd's Bush, and we walk through Notting Hill and Camden Hill, and the camellias are out and the blossoms out and the sun's shining, you know, and my wife disappeared into what's it called, a redesign shop or something. Well, she will be seeing that as well. But I was standing outside the shop. Why would I go into a redesign shop? And just observing humanity. And the door suddenly opened behind me and someone shot out. I looked around, there's a rather small door, and it had 3 flats. And the top flat was roof garden, and then the middle flat was penthouse, and the bottom flat was ocean view. That's it. Obviously, there's a lot of sense of humor around. Now, this is what the plan was to be, that I'd start with a story and finish with a song. I won't be singing, but hopefully the magic of technology here will get it going. It's always good to have a little bit of music around. And in between, please fall asleep if you want to. But the main thing at the start, I just wanted to give you a story. I'm not here, as you'll see, because of my presentation skills. It's because I'm chairman of the British Society of Lifestyle Medicine, which is only just getting going. But it's important nonetheless. And the breadth and power of lifestyle medicine is not widely understood, but I hope we can make a difference to our nation's health in due course. So for this mainly visual presentation, I'd like to acknowledge, and I'm sorry for people online, I'd like to acknowledge at the outset the influence of Professor Gary Egger, Professor of Health Science at Southern Cross University in New South Wales. He's recognized as a world authority on obesity and is one of the founding fathers of lifestyle medicine as we know it, and I'm pleased to count him as a friend. So here we are. The story. A gentleman came to see me in the surgery, age 50. Hadn't met him before. He came with something fairly trivial, but I had actually looked at the computer, as well as I have to do nowadays, and noticed he was getting treatment for a neuroendocrine tumor. He'd had chemotherapy, and he had huge liver metastases. He came for something unrelated, but I took the trouble to ask him, how he was and how he was coping. And he didn't say anything. He just looked very pale and ill and went home. And the next thing, I got a phone call saying, I want you to be my doctor. And I'm thinking, know, you're in the practice, it's okay, you know, you don't have to say you want me to be a doctor. I said, no, I want you to be my doctor, and I'm phoning my specialist. So not long afterwards, I had a phone call from the specialist, an oncologist, who said, I've been in touch with your patient, and I'm afraid there's nothing more we can do for him. He'll be dead in about 6 weeks. So subsequent to that, he contacted me and said, could you come and visit me, please? So I did. And as I went in the door, it was fairly obvious that with an 8-year-old daughter opening the door, that he wasn't going to be in a good place. And very quickly then, after I started talking to him, I realized he was nowhere near thinking or contemplating of death. That wasn't an option. So we sat down and worked out a plan. The plan partly was me going away and doing a little bit of research for him overnight. And the next day, he took all this research to his oncologist and said, I want to try this. Well, to give her credit, the oncologist didn't try, I don't think, what I'd researched, but she looked at other options. So he had chemotherapy, more chemotherapy. 5 years later, in 2015, he had a PET scan, which showed no cancer anywhere. He was completely free of cancer. Is his story special, or is it ordinary? As it happened, just around the corner, I was visiting an elderly lady in her 70s who had a pancreatic cancer and who died 8 weeks later. So what was it about him? Well, he had a determination to live. And the tools he elected to use to achieve his goal were tailored conventional chemotherapy, albeit by banging on the table with the oncologist, knowledge of foods to fight cancer, regular physical activity, and the loving support of his family. So the challenge we face is not only to prevent disease in the first place, but to manage it effectively, which means holistically. So this is lifestyle medicine at work, and healthy longevity is its goal. Now, R.D. Laing was a colourful Scottish psychiatrist. I thought Tamsin Lewis was going to be here today. She's a psychiatrist. Are there any psychiatrists in the room? No. Anyway, he didn't believe in pharmacotherapy. He left Scotland and came to London. He enjoyed recreational drugs. No drugs were off limits. He himself died of a heart attack while playing tennis, aged 61, I think, in Saint-Tropez. But he was a heavy drinker. The third line, an inevitable intermittent morbidity, I really just want to quibble with. We really need to change our mindset about this. I don't think we should accept it. That aging equals inevitable morbidity. It doesn't. And the danger is getting into the mindset where we think, well, actually the NHS is going to be, in this country, is going to be overwhelmed because of an aging population. Well, actually, maybe if we try harder to keep people well, it won't be overwhelmed. So what's hitting our way? Here's some context. Now, if you look at the two white arrows on this slide, they're quite scary. For the first time, we're facing a rise globally in both acute infections and in chronic diseases, which are also called non-communicable diseases or long-term diseases. So we've already passed the epidemiological crossover point in this country, where the two lines cross, and developing countries are fast approaching it. So why should we be concerned? Here we have a red solid line, which represents life expectancy in UK men, and the intermittent red line, which represents healthy life expectancy. Both, in fact, are reducing. The latest figure in Scotland demonstrates that both girls and boys born in 2015 will have a lesser healthy life expectancy than their parents. And as a grandparent, I take that personally. For the first time since records began. And incidentally, obesity itself costs the Scottish economy £2.3 billion per year. It's £16 billion in the UK, and £4.2 billion is a cost to the NHS of just obesity alone. And 40% of the population will be classed as obese by 2030. So what kind of legacy is this to leave our children. When I qualified in 1975, the following year, Ivan Illich gave us this quote. Move on 25 years, and Welsh et al. Had this to say. Now, it means that basically throughout my life, I've been contributing to making everyone sick. And that is definitely not why I went into medicine. So something has gone wrong. Something, as you were saying, has to change. From the year dot, it was infection. It was infection that was the killer. For the reasons that we saw earlier, poor hygiene, poor sanitation, lack of access to clean water, poor public health, and of course microorganisms. But things are changing. We have other problems now. So how might lifestyle medicine help avoid this tsunami wave of chronic disease heading our way? Mainly, I would suggest, by a better understanding of the causes. BSLM is a member of this Global Lifestyle Medicine Association, and here is the official, slightly different, but saying the same thing, their definition anyway. And the other definition, which was very succinctly shown us by Johannes, we don't use the word faucet in this country, we call it a tap. So we're dealing with a leaking tap while everyone else is trying to mop up. And I think that people understand that. And it's a lot easier than trying to explain what you're seeing on the screen. So these are the components of lifestyle medicine: knowledge, skills, tools, and procedures. Today, you'll be pleased to hear we're about to skim pictorially over the determinants of chronic disease. That's at the top, the knowledge bit, starting with an explanation of the drivers of modern disease and where lifestyle medicine fits into the process. So here we are, we've got the diseases, we've got the risk factors and markers, most people will recognize them. We've got downstream determinants, or proximal determinants of this. They're the cause. Then you've got the medial determinants. Again, you'll recognize a lot of them. That's the cause of the cause. And finally, distally, upstream determinants, the cause of the cause of the cause. So we've got conventional medicine at one end of that, dealing with risk factors and disease. Then we've got lifestyle medicine and public health at the end. And it looks as if lifestyle medicine is sort of straddling the two ends. But I would say that as a medic, that really we're dealing with all of those, or certainly should be. But we don't. We get focused at the right end of that slide. So the principal thing to note then is that lifestyle medicine is about recognizing the upstream causes of most of the 21st century chronic diseases. We can then focus on preventing and managing disease accordingly. Whereas nutrition and activity constitute the penicillin of lifestyle medicine, psychology and behavioral change represent the surgery of lifestyle medicine. You'll note that obesity is characterized not as a disease, but as a marker, and the canary in the coal mine, as Prof. Egger calls it. I don't also like the idea of having hypertension thought of as a disease. It is also a symptom. However, question is there a chronic disease germ that might be behind all of this? Well, it was Leeuwen Hoek in 1673, while using a homemade microscope, that he discovered red blood cells and microscopic living creatures. The scientific community promptly ignored him. It was 166 years later that the involvement of these living creatures in putrefaction was finally accepted, and we moved on to accept the germ theory of infectious diseases. Things don't move very quickly in science. Indeed, Max Planck famously said that science advanced only by the rate of one funeral at a time. Meanwhile, in 2006, Hotomushlegil in Harvard discovered the process of metabolic inflammation, the slow burn of oxidative stress and chronic inflammation causing dysmetabolism, allostasis due to lifestyle and environmental inducers. Now, Prof. Egger has called these inducers anthropogens. These are man-made, and therefore, if they're man-made, by definition, they can be man-unmade. He also coined the term obesogenic, which we all use nowadays. But I think it'll be a while before everybody's talking about anthropogenic. So how does lifestyle medicine differ from conventional medicine? This and the next slide illustrate some of the differences, and I've highlighted a number of them. Treating the lifestyle cause is the first, then the question of where responsibility lies. It seems to me that currently the typical consultation is governed by fear. The clinician fears litigation if something is missed, and the patient is fearful of the unknown. Now, honest engagement with our patient and shared decision-making is key. This slide is to emphasize behavioral modification and teamwork. We have been working in silos too long. It's not good for us, and it's not good for our patients. One of the tools of lifestyle medicine is the shared medical appointment, which gets health providers out of their silos and into a bright new world together and engaged. People actually find it fun, and fun is coming back into medicine. So here are the determinants of disease and the metabolic inflammatory process. If you pick out the first letter of each entry, I won't ask you to do that. I'll tell you what it spells out. It spells out nasty malodors. Something which makes Prof. Egger very happy because he thought up most of it. You can see how broad is the lifestyle medicine brush and how impossible it is to even begin the process of discussion with our patients in a 10-minute appointment. So we'll briefly skip through each of the determinants. Nutrition. Overnutrition and undernutrition are two sides of the same coin. Both result in malnutrition. And to complicate matters, we can be metabolically healthy whether we are fat or thin. The FOTI, fat on the outside, thin on the inside, and the TOFI, thin on the outside, fat on the inside are examples. So there will be a video coming under the nutrition bit at the end, hopefully if there's time, by Professor James McCormick, who's a faculty of pharmaceutical sciences in Vancouver, Canada. It's always good after a little bit of time to stand up and move around, and I hope we get a chance to do that. But Montero defines 3 levels of food and drink. Now, food groups. The whole foods, relatively unprocessed, the substances extracted from whole foods, and the ultra-processed foods. So generally speaking, the pro-inflammatory values are being exhibited by modernized foods, and the good anti-inflammatory values from whole foods, to which humans have adapted over millennia. Activity and inactivity. Inactivity or lack of sufficient activity is one of the most underappreciated causes of long-term disease. We don't need to be active these days. Probably the first generation in history, which for some level of activity has not been a daily requirement. And here's why. It's okay to blame us Scots for the 30% reduction in daily energy expenditure. As inventors of the telephone, the television, the refrigerator, probably the remote control button, I don't know. So we are a nation of couch potatoes. I don't think we invented the sofa. I'm pretty sure that was the Ottoman Turks. We know that screen time in children has been strongly associated with overweight and obesity. So the arrival of TV and everything else that came on is important. So we need to think differently, don't we? View movement as an opportunity, not a threat. And today, coming from a different part of London, going up these long escalators, how many people do you see actually walking up? Everybody's standing like this. So here's me, going up, feeling silly. But it's the other way around in Melbourne. If you stand on the wrong side in Melbourne, they'll elbow you out the way. So If there was an intervention that did all this, would you take it?
Yes.
One yes, two yeses, 3 yeses. I'm always surprised by the response to this. Quite a few people say no, because I kind of think they're expecting that it's a pill, and everybody's talking about polypills, aren't they? Well, it's physical activity, isn't it? And as we all know, in our offices, we always keep ourselves active. Even when we're outdoor in the office, we keep ourselves active. Now, which egg are you? You don't need to tell me, you can just identify yourself there. Stress, which is endemic to humanity, has more recently become a chronic strain on physiological adaptation. The outcome, as described by Arthur Roach, is a thin stream of fear trickling through the mind. If encouraged, it cuts a channel into which all our other thoughts are drained. And how elegantly put is that? Now, stress, anxiety, depression. Anyone in here recognize the colored bits? Has any of you suffered from anything on those colored bits? We do, don't we? We do. So, as a consequence of this trickle, from this channel, a whole range of long-term diseases are born. Strategies for preventing and dealing with stress are a cornerstone of lifestyle medicine. I suspect we have very individual tales to tell about how we cope with our own problems. But the answer doesn't lie in everybody, or maybe in some people, in a pill. And there was a very powerful presentation at the Lifestyle Medicine conference in Melbourne in November, when Bob Brown, who's an environmentalist in Australia, Tasmanian, gave a very, very powerful presentation. He had been on antidepressants for 10 years, and he admitted at the end of it, made not a blind bit of difference. Something else came along 10 years later, which changed his life. I was going to show this because I thought that picture on the right looked like Tamsin, but she's not here. So now on to technopathology. The technological age of the 20th century has brought with it new challenges, including how to work this, the ill effects of certain forms of modern technology. At extremes, it involves mortality from high-tech warfare, or even transport accidents, to computer-related problems such as impaired vision, repetitive strain injury, neck and back problems, and even skin problems. At any extreme, even improved agricultural technology such as hydroponics is leading to excessive toxicity of recreational drugs. Not that I would know. So, having learned from that, is this what your workstation looks like? Now, inadequate sleep. Along with inactivity, inadequate sleep is one of the most underrated lifestyle risk factors for long-term disease. It's the amount of good sleep that's important, not how long you spend in your bed. Can we get away with using the term lunatic these days? I don't know, but Messerschmitt was an interesting guy. I don't know if you know him, but he's probably a bit older than you'd like to think, 1771. But he was an interesting guy because he looked in the mirrors and then made faces and then cast his head in bronze. So there we are. That's him looking sleepy. Modern lifestyles are often in direct competition with sleep. Arguably, the majority of modern sleep problems have a basis in our lifestyle choices. You may have heard recently that many of our children are chronically sleep deprived, not helped by the quantity of screen time. Additionally, if you suffer a long-term condition, then sleep quality may be affected, creating a bidirectional vicious cycle, a situation commonly encountered in lifestyle medicine. However, with a healthy approach to lifestyle and attention to sleep hygiene, things can improve dramatically. It can improve by this much. It's a very effective birth control method, I think. Environmental influences come from various directions, making unhealthy choices in an obesogenic environment or being exposed to endocrine disrupting chemicals, pollutants in the air, water, and soil. We are all exposed to these environments, yet we know so little about them. The WHO list of EDCs is a long one, yet very few have been properly evaluated, and the cocktail effect is completely unknown. Nor is the impact of long-term exposure to very small amounts of these toxins. COPD and dementia have recently been in the news as being linked to particulate matter. We know constituents of dermatological products are carcinogenic, and others reduce fertility. Cord blood in babies may contain up to 200 man-made chemicals. It may be a small contributor overall to our risky lives, but one that we really should care about. Then, of course, there's climate change to think about, unless you're Donald Trump, of course. Now, this is just a quickie, but an exciting one. Our microbiome, we're a long way from being able to prove causality, but there is an association between the unhealthy leaky gut and unhealthy immune systems and disordered brain function, the so-called gut-brain axis. A healthy diet will heavily influence our microbiome. Meaninglessness or learned helplessness. Some have suggested that the reason Glasgow has a worse health record than a comparable city in UK is down to this, possibly due to sustained high cortisol levels as a consequence of intergenerational epigenetic changes. The longevity study from the Western USA, started by Dr. Terman in the 40s and followed up 40 years after his death, and also the Harvard study of adult development, still going after 70 years, concluded that healthy longevity was dependent on having a purpose in life and a strong relationship with someone trustworthy, period. Nothing to do with money, nothing to do with blood pressure, nothing to do with cholesterol, nothing to do with statins. Alienation. The picture on the right, actually, I'll just explain very briefly. If you were a witch, if somebody poked something sharp into you, if you didn't bleed, you were a witch, and you were therefore dealt with accordingly. And the place where I work in Cahenzie House in East Lothian, the last recorded death as a consequence of being a witch happened there, and that's why I included it. There's an artist who works in it. Anyway, alienation. Here's a quote from, I'm sorry, yet another Glaswegian. I'm from Edinburgh. Why am I quoting Glaswegians? But anyway, Jimmy Reid was the rector of Glasgow University in 1972. He led what was called the Upper Clyde Shipbuilders work-in and took on the government and won in Ted Heath's time. I'm not going to read it out because I think it says what alienation really is. Let me, the onset, define what I mean by alienation. It is the cry of men who feel themselves the victims of blind economic forces beyond their control. It's the frustration of ordinary people excluded from the processes of decision-making. It is a feeling of despair and hopelessness that pervades people who feel with justification that they have no real say in shaping or determining their own destinies. I think that is so profound and so right. The loss of culture. The indigenous people of Australia with 30,000 years of history are a good, or is it a bad example? Their whole life has been disrupted by incomers to the extent they are now amongst the unhealthiest in their own country. Meanwhile, on the right there, this new arrival on a beach in East Lothian, where I live, is in big trouble, especially if it is female and it wants to play golf at a nearby famous golf course. Any golfers here? No? Well, it's gone over your head in that case. There's a place called Muirfield. Occupation. Occupational status and employment types, such as shift work, may have direct effects on health and safety, but social factors such as perceived social injustice, burnout, and security of employment play an increasing part. Both physical and psychological occupational environments need to be considered as part of a lifestyle perspective on health, as described by Michael Marmot. He describes high demand and low control, imbalance between effort and rewards, social isolation, organizational injustice, job insecurity, and shift work as a toxic cocktail. I have to say, if this cocktail was indeed endemic in our NHS, we would all worry. Drugs. Cigarettes and recreational drugs have adverse effects. Pharmaceutical products often have ill effects. iatrogenic deaths are the third on the list of deaths in the US and probably in the UK as well. It is estimated in the UK that up to 1 million people are admitted to hospital each year due to prescribed drugs. The art of lifestyle medicine is to provide a lifestyle approach to health management and deliver optimal health outcomes. Sensible prescribing, deprescribing where possible, and patient engagement in long-term disease management is clearly a logical approach. In one practice alone up in Southport, diabetes has been reversed, patients are coming off medication, and the practice has saved the taxpayer £50,000. It can be done, and it should be done. You'll probably guess that these two slides are Gary Eggers, basically saying alcohol is a social cost as well as a physical one when taken to excess. Over and under exposure. Many lifestyle-related behaviors, such as smoking, have a linear association with ill health. Others have a U-shaped or tick-shaped association. Exposure to certain forms of UV light is a case in point. Too much may be a cancer risk. Too little can result in vitamin D deficiency. And the latter is associated with a host of ailments, probably because it acts more like a hormone than a vitamin. We're seeing children, once again, developing rickets due to sedentary indoor life. Oh dear, there he goes again. Yes, sunlight, asbestos, there's still some around. We know about passive smoking, underexposure to light we mentioned, and of course, everybody needs to have more fun. Now, poor social relationships have been linked with inflammatory processes, probably by association through the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. Loneliness and lack of social support is also an issue, so the NM practitioner may also need to be part relationship counsellor, or at least have referral networks into which to refer. You don't need words for this one. Social inequality or social disadvantage. It is recognized that income inequality and financial employment-related insecurity are established health risks, and absolute poverty appears to be less of a concern than relative poverty. Metabolic inflammation has been shown to play an intermediary role here. As clinicians, should we be acknowledging this more? And how can we in short consultations? So here we are, some useful advice. What did this spell out? Nasty malodors. That's all you have to remember. And to some of the pictures. If you can do that, you've done well. So, it's time to wake up. Everybody awake? I've slightly adapted the US Patient-Centered Outcome Research Institute's key questions for research grant applications. If these questions could be answered at personal level, at community level, at national level, and at global level, then we should be doing or going a long way to achieving the goals of lifestyle medicine and the healthy longevity for the planet's human occupants. Now, I'm going to read them out. Number one, what may happen to me given my personal characteristics, mindset, and social context? 2, what are the benefits or risks of the options available to me, and how can I understand them? 3, what can I do for myself? And 4, what can you, the health provider, do for me? So the fundamental art of lifestyle medicine is to coach, coax, and nudge into healthy behavior, from cell to community to country, or you could say in this country, from cradle to coffin. So on that cheery note, we have a little bit of music, I hope. Which one is it? That's that one here.
patient? Is it wrong? Is it right? After going to 30 cracks through them, I had to have one more bite. This is good in the jewelry. She rang the dinner bell. I was thinking to myself, this could be heaven or this could be hell. But she did open Barbie, and she gave me a tray. 5 roses down the corridor, and I heard her say, why don't you just eat Mediterranean? Such a happy place, all food is great. Let me think, but if you just eat Mediterranean, it's blue and white, and it's not well defined. I'm a feeling gifted, if I give me the best, the golden lots of money takes this food, think I'm not blessed. I'll be dancing in the courtyard, screaming so much sweat. The food is just and tender, give me shady baguette. Then she called up the waiter, please bring us some wine. I've had a good 3 years since 1969, and still those voices are so far away. But wake me up in the middle of the night, and then I get her say, hey, why don't you just be moderation? Just stop your face, just stop your face, you are losing weight. It'd be way better if you just did moderation. Have some exercise, little birds and flies. Rich fruits and some veggies, olive oil, fish and rice. And she said, don't choose food like prisoners and beer, based on informed advice. So in the dining chambers, we gathered for the feast. We ate a balanced meal with grains and greens that even had some red meat. He said, give me pleasure, I just coffee I adore. Should I put the sugar package back, then go away myself once more? Relax, sipping right down, something that you can see. But when it comes to musicians, who really can you believe?
Thank you very much. You don't have to agree with it all, but from now on, California Hotel, I hope will make this a better training. Thank you very much.
So thank you so much, Dr. Lawson. Really appreciate it for being here and for inspiring us. Thank you, thank you. And yeah, that song is gonna be, oh, I need the other mic, here we go. I think we're gonna continue right away. Now, Dr. Tamsin was supposed to be here, but she had like a kind of a child emergency where she just couldn't make it today. And laryngitis, here we go. And so what I need to do is make sure I don't pronounce your name wrong, because it's a beautiful name, difficult to pronounce, maybe not. Despina Chinopoulou. Beautiful. Here we go. So welcome, Despina, here to our stage.
Hi, everyone.
Yes, welcome, welcome.
What a great connection, too. Mediterranean, I'm Greek, and I just came from California.
Here we go.
I mean, how did that happen?
How did that happen? So let me just introduce her quickly. So for many, many years, Fortune 500 companies, high-powered, successful woman, switching into integrative lifestyle medicine, functional medicine practitioner, and working with Dr. Tamsin just for 2 weeks. Since 2 weeks, you arrived here.
Yes, met through mutual friends, and
working on a common project. So let me hook you up here.
Yes.
How do we do this? Let's see.
Want to put it here?
Yeah. Here's good.
Yes. So my first big statement to make to you guys today, and I'll show you a video about this just now, continuing on the inspirational track that we started on, is that I want to become a billionaire. I'll hold it. Yeah. As soon as possible. Yes, billionaire as soon as possible. And that's the new definition of billionaire, which means how do we positively affect 1 billion people in our lifetime? And a favorite media person, Jason Silva, talks about this in one of his clips. So I wanted to start off with that. It's just the YouTube.
Oh, the YouTube. I'm sorry. Here we go.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks. Perfect.
We live in a world of exponential technological advancement, what this literally means that we have new construction kits for our reality, new tools with which to probe and adjacent possible. So consider the implications, right? As Marshall McLuhan used to say, first we build the tools, and then the tools build us. We are designed by what we have designed. There are these feedback loops of mind, tool, and world that radically redefine our boundaries, that radically transform what it means to be human. To be human today is to crisscross the sky. To be human today is to create technosocial wormholes, mind-to-mind communication, or around the limits of time, space, and distance. So what do we do? Well, we need to radically reach out to one another in ways we haven't before. There's a great line that says empathy rarely extends beyond our line of sight. In other words, out of sight is out of mind. But if anything, these wireless communication technologies are radically extending our line of sight. They're providing ontological maps of the real, giving us an astronaut overview of that. We are seeing the big picture. We are seeing the captain of the spaceship Earth. And what shall we do? We need to extend our hands to one another. We have the tools to overcome all of the limitations of our humanity. We have the power, we have the will, we have the capacity, the creative capacity to overcome our limits. So today, billions of us linking to one another created the global code, the global brand. What is the new definition of billionaire? The new definition of billionaire is he who will positively affect the lives of 1 billion people. He or she will reach out and say, I will positively affect the lives of 1 billion people. This should be our goal. This is our responsibility. Here's our chance.
So who wants to be a billionaire? Yay! Do we want to bring it back to your beautiful, yes. No slides today for me because I really wanted this to be an interactive session and have everybody ask questions and be curious and really explore with me. So I'll start off just by saying a little bit about my story and what brings me into the lifestyle functional medicine area, and then how I was lucky enough to find Dr. Tamsin Lewis and start a new practice here in the UK, and kind of leave you with a thought on how important it is as a community that we start showing results in the health area so that people recognize how truly magnificent this type of medicine is. So to start with, right now, today, in the present, I am super healthy, turning 50, being able to do the things I love, hanging out with my family and friends, sailing, skiing, cooking, reading, and having capacity, having strength, having energy, and really being able to be in a career that inspires me and that brings me tons of joy. But I have to say, this wasn't always the case. I was working in IT for 30 whole years with tons of stress, getting on an airplane every week. I was sales for Europe, Middle East, Africa. So one day I was in South Africa, the next day I was in Dubai, the next day in Germany, and it was very overwhelming at times. And I saw for myself that I was having brain fog, my hair was falling out, my nails were getting thinner, and I saw all my colleagues around me just having headaches at work, and I kept encouraging, drink more water, feeling low energy, and I was saying, have some more nuts and seeds, and try to eat more veggies, because that's how I grew up being Greek. We love to eat our fruits and veggies. But I was feeling like I wasn't really doing enough. People would always say to me, your little bits of advice and hint are really helpful, but why am I not getting that from my practitioners? So I constantly thought to myself, what am I to do? I've been in this career 30 years. I'm really good at it. People appreciate me. But I don't think of retirement as a positive, good thing to look forward to. So I decided to retrain. So I was at that time living in Europe. So I came up to London and went to the College of Naturopathic Medicine and became a naturopathic nutritionist. All this while I was working and traveling and doing my crazy day-to-day job. And I loved it so much, and it truly inspired me, that I went then to CNELM and got a master's in personalized nutrition, which really brought all the knowledge together and made me feel that I was really kind of getting there on my new career path. And that college was associated with the Institute for Functional Medicine. So I started reading about them and using my vacation time from IT to go over to the States for those 3-day, 5-day sessions and start learning more about what functional medicine is. So I was super curious about it. And I see it as medicine 2.0, or the new advanced medicine, just like what we've been hearing about today. In the past, from the Greek ancient almost times with Socrates, and they always said, let food be thy medicine. They always looked at how can we eat together in community, how can we eat from the earth, and a lot of this just got forgotten. And what I feel is happening now with lifestyle medicine and functional medicine and integrative medicine is we're creating a new operating system, that how can we put all these parameters together in one place and look at the context of the person and the lifestyle that they're leading and try to personalize a protocol that will help them reach their goals. So as I was going through my functional medicine training, I heard about the Cleveland Clinic and that they were starting a functional medicine arm. And I just walked up to the CEO of IFM, Lori Hoffman, and said, I really want to help you guys out in any way I can. So I left my IT work and went over to America and joined IFM because I wanted to help this movement grow. I was passionate about finding new partners and new organizations that would try to get this message across to various people across the globe. As IFM is a nonprofit and it's a small organization in the US doing training, and they're trying to be global, but they recognized and realized that they need partners and affiliates and different organizations across the globe to help. And as I was doing that, I was seeing more organizations in the US that were trying hard to bring this message in different ways. There was Wellness FX that tried doing blood tests quickly and showing results to people so that they can see if they're deficient in certain vitamins and minerals. I became myself a member of a company called Aravail, which is all about systems biology and trying to, again, look at your genetics together with your blood markers and your stool markers and your hormone saliva markers. And they had a health coach once a month that basically spoke to me about my results and how I could help myself become even more healthy, which was good, but I found that they did the same test for everyone, and they gave up and down the same types of suggestions for people, or so it seemed. It did help me get to a certain point, but I always felt that there could be more. And all these organizations have in common that they talk about 4P medicine, which is preventative and proactive and personalized and participatory. But it's so difficult to bring all those 4 Ps into one organization and one program. And that's why I was lucky enough to find Dr. Tamsin Lewis, which has been practicing in the past in the NHS, and she has seen the pros and cons there and been frustrated with just having 10 minutes with her patients, and then creating her own company, Curo 7, where she tries to look at specific biomarkers for the patients and give specific protocols. And now, together with myself and other doctors and health coaches and nutritionists, we're creating a fiber health group where we can really look at the 4 Ps and look at the context of why the person has these symptoms to begin with, looking at the root cause and creating those personalized plans and working with coaches to help the change happen. Any questions so far? Yes, it's participatory medicine, which means that you and your clinician work together. It's preventative. It is, hold on. Proactive, correct. And preventative and personalized, yeah.
So is the Mediterranean diet the one you are recommending?
I currently am on the Mediterranean diet. I think that we need to look at the person and their lifestyle. I don't think of old school. I think that if it fits your needs and your lifestyle, it depends on whether you're an athlete or you're a stay-at-home mom, or if you're flying around the world. Some people require more protein. Some people require more healthy fats. So it's all about looking at your biomarkers and your lifestyle and seeing which diet is really best for you. There is no one size fits all.
Yeah, it's just, I think basically the Mediterranean diet is very cliche, and it really doesn't appear, and all this high protein, etc. It's full of cholesterol, the diet, and there's not really proof that it's any better. So what I'm saying, the preventive medicine, lifestyle medicine is exactly what we need to have. I think the Mediterranean diet to try to feed people is a little bit something what maybe needs to be worked on.
Yes, so what you're explaining is that it is very important that it is a personalized diet, and that we can't always say that one particular diet, like the Mediterranean diet, is the perfect fit for you. We have to look at it in the context of what's going on in your life. Yes. Other questions? Okay. So I guess I will go to the next part here, which is about being results driven. So what I've noticed is that because lifestyle, integrative, and functional medicine is fairly new in our Western world, we do need to start showing results. So what I do recommend to all practitioners out there is to, before you start with your client, either look at a medical symptoms questionnaire, or something like a Promise 10, which is a questionnaire that's used in the US with just 10 questions of wellness, where you let them fill that out and see where they stand before coming in and speaking with you. And then whether that is 6 weeks down the line, 2 months down the line, 3 months, 6 months, depending on your engagement with your client, you ask them to do that questionnaire again and see what was the before and the after, because we need to start looking statistically how this medicine is really creating results. And that is something that the Cleveland Clinic is doing right now. They started from a very small functional medicine arm, and now they have a whole wing. They're using these types of analysis to see changes in people's health, and as a result, they're seeing how wellness is going up and the cost of care is going down. So once we start having the statistics around us where we see the results happening, then we can go out there and prove that this model works, which is super important. So I urge you all to do that in your practices in any way you can.
You work with Dr. Esselstyn in Cleveland Clinic?
I haven't personally worked with him, no.
Is he part of your project?
No, not right now. Yes?
I've got a naturopathic background, so we always look at treating the whole person, not just the symptom or the disease they come with. Because a lot of the time with conventional medicine, you treat the symptom or whatever the disease is the disease picture. But one of the things we were taught was always to treat the person with the disease, not the disease.
Very good point. Treat the person with the disease and not the disease. Yes. Agree, 100%.
Even though you ask them about symptoms, you wouldn't just focus on that. You focus on
Yes, the whole picture is very important. And that is one tool that we use in functional medicine. We have something called a timeline and a matrix. With the timeline, we look from birth. Did the person go through a normal childbirth? Were they C-section? Did they get breastfed? This changes their immunity. And as time goes, we see, did they have infections as kid, and ear infection all the time? Did they move a lot to different locations? Maybe when they were a college student, they were exposed to mold in some type of dorm or go through a traumatic event. We write that all in the timeline, and we look at the symptoms as they appear, because the symptoms are telling us some type of story. And then we, together with the client, tell the story of the client to the client, and that jogs their memory, and they all of a sudden say, oh, wow, yeah, my parents used to smoke when I was little, and I just remembered how that made me cough all the time. And you get more of what we call the antecedents, the triggers, the mediators. The antecedents are, what's in your family history, taking a deep family history. What are the type of ailments your family was predisposed to? The triggers are some type of stress event, or maybe, something happened like a short stop in a car that really startled you when you were little. Different triggers can bring on certain health symptoms in your life. And then the mediators, some people think that, smoking is okay for them, but it's not. If you smoke for a long time, it's a mediator that keeps nutrients from being absorbed and causing a lot of imbalances in the body. So we look at all these antecedents, triggers, and mediators. We look at the timeline, and then we put that all together in something called a matrix, which gives us where the priority needs to be. If a lot of the areas that are showing up are immune oriented, because the person has constant colds and flus and is constantly feeling unwell, or gastrointestinal oriented, we look at where is the most important area to start with, because we need to get our patients to see results quickly and start feeling better and alleviating those symptoms as quickly as possible so that they can continue on their journey. And we do that by having the collaborative care team of nutritionists and coaches to call every week and have that accountability. Were you able to shop for the right things this week? Did you have difficulty cooking some of these new recipes? How's your society and your surroundings helping you fit this new lifestyle into your everyday life? So we talk to them about their challenges and give them tips and ideas on how they can overcome them by planning correctly. So bringing our clients along on this journey is super important. And for everyone, it's a different point where they get stuck. So we need to really be on target with the context of where they're at, what they want to achieve, and how to help them get there step by step. Any other questions? Okay. Well, then I guess I want to leave you with, you are our practitioners of the future. And if not you, who? And if not now, when? So let's go out there and make people well. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to share about functional medicine, and I think that is part of the issues, right? There is functional medicine, integrative medicine, lifestyle medicine, and the same with nutrition, as you said, right? We get often confused that there's so many options out there, and then especially our clients, they don't know which one to go, because especially if they search the internet, which I think over the last weeks and months, the term fake news, we've heard that a lot, right? Anyways, so what I'd like to do, have a break like about half an hour. Now, the cafeteria is where you came in at the entrance. Who knows where it is? Follow the ones that have their hands up. It's probably the easiest way. It's by the entrance on the left downstairs. Right, so I guess we meet at the cafeteria and we start communicating, talk, have a little refreshment, and then we come back in about half an hour, okay? Let's make it exactly half an hour. Thank you guys, thank you so much. And for everybody on the live stream, we're gonna be back in a half an hour, okay? See you soon. Okay, everybody, so let's get started in a minute. Okay, a bunch of people coming. Okay, here we go. I think we are live. Is it working? Yeah. Okay, hope you had a good lunch, some water break. Healthy, right? Yes, good, good, good. Very good. We're establishing the right habits. And I think that's a big part that we need to do individually with our clients and as a society, obviously. So for the next half an hour, 35 minutes or so, I want to talk about, first of all, green and lifestyle prescriptions, which is kind of the focus that we have as an organization. And then also a bit more about the root cause analysis. What does that really mean from a lifestyle prescription perspective? So first of all, what are green or lifestyle prescriptions, right? I mean, it seems pretty obvious, but I always wondered why nobody has done that yet or pushed that to be used in health practices. Now we know, I don't know, percentage, 90% of people go to a healthcare professional and the majority get a prescription, right? Diagnostics, medication, whatever that might be, which is okay, right? That's where we are right now. But what, and I'd like you to envision that or visualize that. What if a patient goes to a doctor and the doctor has only 10, 15 minutes? Unfortunately, that's the way the system is. But let's say high blood pressure. Well, what's the typical treatment for high blood pressure? Statins? Yeah, would be one, right? For example. Let's just take this as an example. Now, what if that doctor would talk to the patient and say, well, we have an option to go the lifestyle medicine route, which would be all about lifestyle modifications. So we're looking at the root cause of the issue, change lifestyle, and allow our body to go back into this natural state of health. Would that be a good thing? Yes. It would be amazing, right? And so that is really our drive, our passion to bring green or lifestyle prescriptions into healthcare offices, practices. Now, let me explain the difference, because when we started about a year or two ago, kind of researched what's out there. And I was so surprised that New Zealand actually, for I think the last 5 to 10 years, they're officially using green prescriptions. You can go to their Ministry of Health website. So they had programs where they actually encouraged the healthcare professionals to write green prescriptions, which is mostly exercise, fitness, nutrition, and also smoking, ceasing smoke, and so on. So it has been used actually pretty successfully. Now, let me actually continue here. So it's about healthy living, right? That we want to focus on healthy living and using a tool of writing a lifestyle prescription to really empower our clients. Now, let me talk a little bit about the healthcare system, because I think one of the things that whatever I've done in the past, I always kind of ahead of things, and I kind of learned to kind of step back and see where we are right now. Because often we have visions that just can't be applied into this current reality, right? And I think this is one. Lifestyle medicine is going to be difficult to be applied because we have a system that is very limiting, right? So, in terms of primary care, there's not a lot of time per client. the whole insurance system and the structure is set in a way, takes a lot of energy and strength and willpower to step out of it and have a private practice, like Spina was saying. And so that's the fact, I think, and it will improve over time. But what if we use this concept of green or lifestyle prescriptions in practices? And if it's a GP, a doctor, having just minimal of time and referring clients that are open to this new type of lifestyle medicine to a health coach that works, oops, let me go back, that works with that clinic, with that doctor. I firmly believe this is very doable. And the nice thing is, for example, we have one doctor in US that uses this concept, and he was saying it was very difficult for him to integrate these kind of health coaching, lifestyle medicine concept in his practice. He says, I don't have time. He talks like that. He's so fast, so he doesn't have time. No, he doesn't have time. You know, it's just he has 10, 15 minutes, and he doesn't get paid, right? He can't spend a half an hour, otherwise he doesn't get paid. So he said he's using lifestyle prescriptions for a while now, and says the nice thing is that it doesn't take that much time. You can do this in 10, 15 minutes. Now, it doesn't mean that's a full session, that's a full coaching session, right? But the key is awareness, I think. That the ones that actually should be in the center of healthcare, which is the healthcare professionals, doctors, that they give patients options. And some choose still, like you were saying, you know, some will choose the pill because it's faster supposedly and might have side effects or whatever, right? That's okay. But at least there are options. I think that is where we need to start. And so from my perspective, and I hope that's happening soon over the next years, might take longer, that more and more health coaches start to work with traditional medicine, clinics, doctors, and there's a more synergy going on, more working together. And so I hope you get out there and educate people and talk to them and really inspire others. And I think the more we talk about this, the more it will happen. Now, are you ready for a short experiment? Well, I haven't heard you. Say it again. Yes, everybody? Yes. Okay, so what I'd like you to do, yeah, that would be nice. You get, it's just a piece of paper, right? If you want to, maybe just, everybody can join in here. So it's just a piece of paper, but think about it this way. In our mind, in our psyche, right? How likely will you follow through when a doctor tells you, take this prescription with authority? Most of the people out there will follow it, right? Because there is authority there. There is a plan there. So the same concept applies to green prescriptions or lifestyle prescriptions. So what I'd like you to do, if you hope you have a pen, and by the way, everybody listening online, you can just take a piece of paper and use it that way. What I'd like you to do, just think for a second. And we keep this really simple, right? I'm not a medical doctor, so it's not a diagnosis, it's not a treatment here, it's an experiment that we do. What I'd like you to do, think for a second, I give you a minute. What could you do right now? What things in your life can you change that you feel really would make a difference in your health and the way you feel? We all know, right? At least a few things. Okay, so think about that for a second. What could you do that you start the moment you walk out here that you don't do anymore or you do? Like, for example, if you still drink a lot of sodas or have certain eating habits, pick something small, right? Don't say, I'm going to go vegan today. You could, if you feel it. If you feel it in your body and say, yes, I know that is something I know I can do and I will do. And then pick that. Or start really small. Yeah? So it could be, I'll just give you a couple examples. It could be exercise related. It could be nutritional related. It could be perception related, how you see the world, right? Which is our mind, how you perceive the world. It could be emotions, that you feel a certain set of emotions a lot. Or it could be that on a regular basis, you think about something. Who has this little voice in their heads, right? We all do, right? Where it's like suddenly I'm upset now, or I'm sad now, or I'm thinking about this person, that person, right? These automated beliefs and programs that we have. So we're talking body, mind, social, which I go into in a minute, but pick one tiny thing. Everybody has one? Yeah. Now, write it down in a statement form. So you give, for exercise purposes, you give yourself a lifestyle prescription right now. But write it down with a conviction that this is what I'm going to do. The paper shows it to me, right? So write it down very short. What is it that you going to do in terms of changing a habit that's going to give you more energy, makes you feel better in your life? So write that down. And also if you listen online, streaming, same thing. Yeah? And if you've done that, then take it home, put it somewhere where you see it every day. Right? Maybe in the morning you woke up, it's right in the mirror, or in the fridge, or wherever you see it. Because then we establish this pattern, we establish a new habit. Right? So from my perception, everything we do, or most of the things we do really, are habits. Right? Even health or disease processes are habits. Right? And I want to go into this in a minute. So are you okay? Everybody's good? Yes. Feel it. And then we're probably going to set up online a little feedback loop where we'd like you to kind of give feedback. See, how did you do? Did you follow through? Because that is probably the biggest issue that we have as health professionals. If we work with lifestyle medicine, right? How do we help our clients change their habits? What kind of tools do we use? Yeah? Good?
Yeah.
Excellent. So let's go back to green and lifestyle prescription. There's a slight difference, really. With green prescriptions, it's more the generalized type of lifestyle modifications, which is basically lifestyle medicine, right? Where let's say it's based on stress management, it's based on nutrition, exercise, and social support, love and support to increase these different areas or decrease the stress that is related to them. Many of you probably kind of do this already, right? I would say. Who kind of does that? Maybe not in a written form yet. So please use this process as a written form. Because what it's going to do, it makes it more real for people, right? So it's very easy to do. You can do this right now. Put this down on a piece of paper, very specific, and actually, if you know Dean Ornish, right, is one of my heroes because it's just what he's done in terms of research. I think it kind of started this lifestyle medicine movement. And he was saying in the research they found there are two ways how you can change. One is small, tiny habits, right? For example, just today, from now on, I don't drink Coke or soda anymore. And you establish that, and then do another one. Another life improvement change. Or you change really big. What makes the difference?
But it's actually something you want to do.
Exactly, it's motivation. So if I, for example, are so motivated that I say, I do anything, then a big change is perfect. And they're going to do it, right? But if they're not sure and there's doubts, then probably a small change is what we need. There's actually, actually doing a movie right now, a short film, that's part of the Lifestyle Medicine Summit. And we're going to have a segment in there, don't tell anybody yet, which is really funny. There's this guy, Tim Urban, I think. He's saying about procrastination, right? He's saying basically there is this rational part in us that knows we need to eat healthy or do whatever, right? And there is the monkey part, which is the unconscious monkey. I do it later, and now that the burger smells so good, right? It's kind of the deep biology that just wants to do whatever he wants to do. And then there's the panic monster. Right? So at some point we reach a level where the panic monster takes over and says, oh my God, deadline, deadline. Right? And so it's kind of like the same with health, that people that actually, often when we get really sick, right, the likeliness that I change are much higher than I'm kind of doing okay, right? Because the panic monster hasn't kicked in yet. And it's all about motivation, really. So motivating our clients is, I think, a big, big part of this. Now, the difference to lifestyle prescriptions is kind of unique to how we do it, is really looking at the root cause from a very specific perspective. Which I go into a minute. So basically, a lifestyle prescription would look very specifically at the timeline where the client is in terms of that healing process, and which specific stress trigger, which specific emotion, which specific beliefs, thoughts that we have, and which specific lifestyle choices affect very specific organs or organ tissue. It was a lot. But that's kind of the core of it, because I think that science proves that, and we see this in so many areas, that the body is incredibly smart. This autoregulation of our system is actually there all the time, right? It wants to kick in. Now, we can go and have more generic approach, which is fine, which is kind of the green prescription approach, or be very specific, right? And I give you in a minute more example, but let's, for example, what's a good example? For example, let's take the skin, because it's always a nice one to look at. So somebody comes to you with eczema, right? Eczema, maybe here, red, inflamed, hot skin. Now, we could say it's nutrition, it's, could be many reasons, like you were saying so nicely, right? The cause of the cause of the cause, right? But the more we go actually to this other side, the root cause, we might find that this person, just when the symptoms started, had kind of a loss of touch situation. They separated from someone. They had a divorce. They experienced a certain situation in their life where they wanted to touch the person, but it was just kind of taken away from them. And that creates stress in the body. And the body and mind, we just think about this all the time. The body starts to react. And the interesting part, once we just focus on that, right, that perception of the loss, then the stress starts to dissipate, and the body automatically goes back. Obviously, nutrition and all the other things are absolutely essential. They're important, but the more we know what specifically triggers certain symptoms, I think the easier it is to work with, right? So that's kind of the difference between green and lifestyle prescription, the way we define it. And obviously we want to go to this root cause. Now again, this organ, mind, brain, and social connection, you both talked about that before. I think that's the core of it, that it's not just the body, right? And often, unfortunately, I see even in lifestyle medicine, integrative medicine, there's a lot of focus on the body, and we kind of miss the other things, right? Our emotional state, that has a powerful effect on our body. Science also, lots of science out there that proves that. Stress, but not just generic stress, but specific stress, right? I mean, we've seen, like with clients and our situations where we just let go of a certain set of emotions. For example, a client with stomach ulceration. Now, with this mind-body connection or organ-mind connection, we know the stomach mucosa the ulceration is connected to anger, right? But not just any anger. It's this anger that has to do with I'm fighting with someone, because you see people that have that often have these life situations where they, let's say in a job, right? They have to fight their way up, or have to fight with somebody a lot, or that's their perception at least. So that anger is somewhat connected to that organ tissue reaction, to this ulceration. They change the way they feel about this. They let go of that anger, and suddenly the ulceration starts to improve because that stress, that pressure is not there anymore. And so, in a way, it goes down to biology, right? Where our body is just really smart. And often we don't trust it enough. So this is one of the models we use where there is this direct link between specific symptoms we experience, the organ, tissue as we call them, and emotions, lifestyle choices, stressors, beliefs, life goals, as you were saying. So that's rather specific. And actually, it's let me maybe give you a couple examples. And I want to ask you this, because it's really common sense, first of all, and I think we all deep down, we know it. What's the stomach for? Digestion, right? But is it only for food digestion? Emotions, right? Anything that our body has to digest, the stomach somehow is involved. What are our eyes for? Seeing, right? Visually. Now, what if we see something very fearful in front of us? Would it make sense that actually the eyes somehow do react too? Yeah. They would, right? And from the example before, what's the skin for? Touch. Now, here we could distinguish between the outer part of the skin, the epidermis, right? Which is that sensitive touch connecting with someone socially, versus the leather skin, the dermis skin, which is below, right? The acne is more the dermis skin. That has much more to do with protecting ourselves, right? But anyway, let's stick outside skin. It's touching. Now, does it make sense if children or babies, what's the most important person, contact person in their life at this moment? The mom, right? Like they're almost glued to the mom. Now, what if they experience kind of a traumatic situation where sometimes hospital, sometimes at home, mom has to go back to work and the mom disappears? Does it make sense that actually the skin would react? And then we see these eczemas, neurodermatitis in our clients. And now, if we know that's the connection, wouldn't that be helpful? It does, right? Because we can be more specific. We can just address the core issue much, much quicker. So it's all about the body's intelligence. The body is super smart, really, and we want to kind of decode that. It's almost like, the body tells us exactly what we need to do once we have this decoding mechanism in place. Another thing that we use a lot, is this phases of healing. What does this look like? The Chinese yin yang, right? So Chinese medicine very much uses that. Susan knows you're in China a lot, right? And because my wife is Chinese, American Chinese, and so we've been in China quite a bit. And I was into this. It's amazing. If you ever go to a traditional Chinese medicine hospital in China or Beijing, it's amazing, right? It's still used a lot. They're using actually kind of an integrated form because people go for many illnesses. They go to traditional Chinese medicine, and you use traditional Western medicine as an addition. So it's actually a very nice combination. But they know about this yin-yang kind of rhythm in our body. And from a Western perspective, we would say it's this sympathetic versus parasympathetic activity in our body. So usually the way it works, and that's kind of a simplified form, but as you can see, something, and you said that so nice, it's been right, this functional medicine uses a similar concept. Something triggers us into stress. Let's just keep this open what that is for now, right? Could be many things. Could be a conversation. Could be, maybe think about this for a second. How often did it happen for you that you had a conversation that wasn't so bad, really. You didn't expect that suddenly afterwards you got really angry, you got really sad, you had suddenly thinking about this so much. And we all have this, right? Did you notice actually that from that point on, you went more sympathetic, so there was more stress hormones? You should have measured your stress hormones at the time, right? So you become more stressed, more sympathetic. Let me go to the next one here. So that's this fight-flight response, fight-flight-freeze response. And we have a set of symptoms in this phase, right? Which, the easy ones that you can, for ourselves or for our clients, if somebody can't sleep well, then they are very likely in the stress phase because they think about something all the time that doesn't allow them to sleep, emotions, thoughts, or situations in their lives. Another one that actually, and that's only the women in here, by the way. Did you ever notice that sometimes you wake up in the morning and say, oh my God, I lost a pound or two? Yeah? Then you were just in the stress phase. Right? Because of the water, we kind of, lose a little bit of weight usually. And there's these little changes that we see. Whereas in the regeneration phase, the second part, when we're parasympathetic, we gain a little weight. There's more water in our body, edemas, and so on. So anyway, so this is very easy to find out, and when you, because you're all therapists and health professionals, so maybe ask clients that, right? If there are more in a stress mode over the last few days or even weeks or month versus this, the parasympathetic, which is actually after we stressed, like, let me go back here. So we chased by a, what is that? Is it a cat? Tiger. Okay, we chased by a tiger, right? And that's the archetypal or the biology, right? That fight flight kicks in when we feel danger is near us. The only difference is that we as human beings, we're so sophisticated, right? We hear a sound out there that we heard a while ago, many years ago, and it remembers us, oh my God, last time I heard this sound, somebody beat me up or did whatever bad to me. And so we are constantly looking out for that sound. We don't want to deal with it, right? And so these tiny things can trigger us off. And so after the tiger is gone, what do? Right? Body says, well, now I need to regenerate. And the typical symptoms that you're probably going to see in yourself and in clients are this fatigue, tired, exhausted, inflammations. Often, or many times, clients come to us in this phase, right? It's interesting. From our perspective, it's actually part of the repair process. And there's also science to show that, obviously, that our body needs to repair and regenerate, and we actually feel sick. And what we actually did is missed that before was a stress that we so far didn't connect. Like example, what is called the weekend sickness, weekend headaches, right? Like I'm going Monday, I have to go to a job that I really don't like, that stresses me very, very much, and I'm okay during the week until Friday lunch. Right? And I don't feel so much of pain or stress, right? Well, I do, but it's just masked because I'm in the sympathetic stress phase, right? I go home, and from there, my body says, kind of unconsciously, now I want to regenerate, now I need to repair. And then we might have a headache. We might have a little flu, or we might have, other symptoms appear. And that is our body basically just saying, well, I want to relax, please. Let me repair and relax and regenerate my body. So knowing this cycles is, I think, very, very helpful. How much time you have? Does it make sense? Yeah. Now I'm just kind of scratching the surface here, but basically, the way we work with lifestyle prescriptions is just to be as specific as we can, to find out specifically is there a certain emotion, is there a certain stressor in my life that would affect me or a specific organ tissue? And let me tell you one question you can ask yourself and your clients, which is this: what's the function of that organ tissue? I think that helps always. It helps me, right? Like with the skin, it so much makes sense, right? If I want to touch someone and there's a situation in my life that stresses that part of me, then very likely that skin will react. If I have, let me give you another example. The lungs, also in Chinese medicine, right? The bronchial mucosa, for example, is very much connected to fear. And maybe I should tell a story about you, my son Sandro. When he was younger, he had like this coughing, like the larynx, right? And he couldn't talk like this, right? And it was so interesting because, you know, it was just happening after Halloween. It wasn't hot. We still lived in Los Angeles. And there was this big ghost coming down, like this Hollywood kind of mansion where we were just like strolling around, basically. And this ghost came down because they decorated everything for Halloween. And I remember both of us, we were, and 3-4 days later, he couldn't talk anymore. So my point is this. Now, for some of you might think, well, is that really that close of a connection? I just like to stimulate you to pay attention, to notice, because the reality is we can really, once we become a little bit more aware, we can notice these little things that trigger us into the stress and then the regeneration phase or the repair phase. Oh, okay. So, questions? No questions? No, I'm sure you have questions. Yeah.
What's your best answer for someone who would say, so you take the example of skin, you know, with eczema?
Right, so that question about the skin?
The specific area of eczema. And when you're explaining the concept of this to a layperson, if they come back and say, okay, but yes, there was a loss of touch with your mum, say, but what about the next person who also had a traumatic loss of the mum but has never had eczema? So why?
Great question.
And not another?
Great question. So the question was, what if one person had eczema and there was some kind of loss situation, like I could not separation often in life, and the other one had the similar situation, but there was no reaction. Well, maybe think about it for a second. Why would that be? If different people, exactly. We are so different. We can't, like you said, we have 4 Ps, right? One is personalized. Everybody is totally different. It applies to nutrition. It applies to like our personal perceptions. Now, one person that experiences this situation not as traumatic or intense, then the physical reaction would be obviously not as much. And nutrition, how is the nutritional situation? Do they have high vitality? So there's many factors, obviously. But a good point. Everyone experiences life situations differently. Now, all I'd like to do at this point or today is kind of ask the question and ask you to think about these connections between our body and our mind, which is mostly our emotions and our beliefs, and the lifestyle choices that we have. And another aspect is the social aspect. Because I think we totally underestimate, and I think Dr. Lawson was saying that, we totally underestimate the social component. You know, if we live in a certain environment, and it's not just the toxins in an environment, but the people in an environment, the people we live with, the stresses we experience in our life that do affect us. And again, that's why, for example, in Dean Ornish's study, it wasn't just nutrition that he studied that shows actually that cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer, coronary arteries, coronary heart disease, he was showing that they are reversible. And even the telomeres in our body, right, in our cells, they can be extended, which means we live longer. But it wasn't just nutrition. What did he do? It was nutrition combined with yoga specifically, which basically is a combination of mindfulness and physical exercise in a way, and social support. So these combined really make the difference. Yeah.
Have you had any success yourself, personally, with doctors going to the other side with, you know,
Okay, you have to explain that. So doctors going to the other side. What does that mean? I'm sorry, but sorry. No. Okay, I'm sorry. Please ask again. Please again.
In general practice, there's a long tradition of the balance, which was a kind of combination of psychotherapeutic understanding and medical expertise. And so for decades, GPs in particular, and now in some hospitals, have been thinking, what's the context, what's the significance of this symptom for this person? And I'd like to recommend a particular book by a really dear colleague of mine, which is called Patients, Their Symptoms and the Doctor.
Patients, Their Symptoms, and a Doctor. It's a book you recommend that kind of talks about the psyche, the mind, and health. Excellent, thank you. But to your question, yes, you know what? I'm talking to so many health professionals, doctors, and I think the desire to see a different type of healthcare system is there for almost every single one. The question is, can I do it? And there has, I think, the Functional Medicine Forum, which is nice. They have like the research done, a survey, right? The problem is that you don't get paid as much when you go to the more lifestyle medicine side, at least so far. You have to be suddenly marketing yourself. The structures are differently. I mean, there's so many things that make it actually so much easier to stay where I am. But there is such a need. There's such a need, and there's such a desire to change. And I believe firmly that the majority of doctors would move right away over time, maybe not right away, but over time, to more lifestyle medicine approach if they could. But how can we help? And maybe I should have asked this question to you. Maybe we have a little panel now. We asked this question to you. How can we help our healthcare professionals, doctors, to actually see there is another way? And I think a big part is education. Get out there, talk to the doctors, the nurses in your community, and establish connections. But please in a way that is respectful and supportive. Yes, please.
I think one of the big gaps is in the system of education, because doctors are trained to look just at symptoms and they know nothing or very little about nutrition. If you just look at their curriculum and the way they are trained, and then of course that's what they know. Right. That's where they stick.
Yeah, good point. Like education has to change, and I think it is changing. Yeah, exactly. I think I just read an article that even UK, right? Maybe we ask the question again later. That nutrition starts to find its way into the universities, but for many of us, it's probably not fast enough. But luckily, it is changing. So, last question, and then Annie's going to come on.
You said that there's nursing staff. It's new thing that they're currently going to start sending them to learn alternative practices. But from what I gather, it still doesn't cover main stuff like matrix, stuff where you can have some life-changing effort. But hopefully, if they're going to start sending nurses for alternative, it means that the door starts from square one.
Right. So basically, that nurses. I'm just repeating for online, so that it starts to change. That nurses start to be the ones that very likely learn this. It's the nurses we need, exactly. We need everybody to really switch and change. So thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it for you being here online, listening. And all I want to do is motivate you to get out there, educate, and create this community. We need to come together. I think we said that a minute ago too with Spina, that if it's integrative medicine, functional medicine, lifestyle medicine, whatever the name is, we are very close. And one more thing I want to say about nutrition, which actually I think Dr. Katz was saying in this interview I did with him a couple of weeks ago. He said nutrition is one of the biggest controversial issues, right? I mean, we all have so much charge. Everybody thinks my nutrition is better than the other and all that, and that is fed by the media, by the press, by everybody that has a stake in this. But the reality is this. At the core, if you just take all the outside stuff away, at the core, we pretty much know what every one of us should do, right? And so that, I think, what we need to focus on. Not the difference between us, but actually what unites us. Thank you so much. So, let's continue right away, another 20 minutes or so with Annie. Annie, let me just introduce Annie Gedye, and basically, I pronounced this wrong, I'm sorry, Gedye. After so many years, I still pronounce it wrong, you know. Annie is a Bowen practitioner. I mean, so many different practices. She's versed in, I don't know, like energetic medicine, psychotherapy methods. She studied at, you taught at a college some years ago. Bowen, physical therapy, and also obviously working with lifestyle prescriptions and the root cause analysis. She's absolutely wonderful. She also teaches at our health coach training. So welcome, Annie here. Thank you, Annie. So here, let me put this on. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
While Johannes wires me up, don't know how you're going to I'll hold the other one. Okay, I'm going to need to look at my notes as well, because the memory at this point, I'm going to use yours as well, Dr. Lawson, is by the end of it, you think I should have said all of those things, you know, I wrote them all down, but let's just get that up. There we go. Okay, so what's that? Oh, yeah, I'm holding all these things. Thanks. Okay. And when you get also to my age, we need things. So when you change the way you look at something, the things you look at change. Now, Wayne Dyer said that, and I read somewhere that he actually was inspired by Max Planck, some particle physicist or whatever, yeah, and he was inspired to see that, honestly, as you change your thought and your perception, life brings you proof of it. And I'm sure you all know about that effect. You know, it's like, but it's true. It's true. It's because it's your belief. The moment you change your belief, you start looking at life differently. And what are beliefs? They're thoughts we think. So this is a really, really important place to be cognizant of, that we can change not only ourselves, but the clients that we work with as well. Okay, so much has come out that is just so exciting that we can all introduce. And what I'm wanting to do is to probably skip through a few things, but just give you a few examples of possible ways to introduce into your practices, into your lives. How can we start making changes that are not too intrusive, or that when people are ready to become the vegan overnight, you know, is to support the person in front of you or yourself, and not make it that it's too big and scary. I want it so that just examples through maybe a few clients that I've had, or, you know, kind of experience and things, to see where we can actually look at changing aspects of our lives, okay? So that you can immediately start adding things in. Like Johannes said, you know, look at, are they in stress phase or regeneration phase? They're all those symptoms you can look at. It's just such a good marker. And you can immediately get feedback from them and give them something that, oh my goodness, it's a process. I'm not sick, I'm in a healing process. So that's very empowering, and I think we need to be empowering of our clients. So let me just get these out here. And also just remember, as Johannes also said, we are, whatever I say, take it in the context of your practice. If you're a medical doctor or you see clients for maybe 10 minutes, you can do something in a minute, okay? If you have a whole session, like an hour or an hour and a half with somebody, you've got far more chance to do a lot of the lifestyle prescriptions that could be just given out in a minute, but you might do 5 or 6 of them in a session or more, you know. It's just whatever you have at your fingertips in the moment. So, I think this common sense, we'll stay there for the minute. The common sense must prevail. And I think, Johannes, you also mentioned this, you know, very often it is whatever you see in front of you is what it is. There's no deep, dark, hidden meaning. And I think this is where our case study, our case history comes in very important, that we need to ask the questions. What medications are you on? Is that actually causing the symptom that we could go off and do all sorts of, you know, other things on, but it actually is, it's the side effect? Or did they have a traumatic accident that they actually broke their back? That's why there's a problem there. You know, really basic things. You know, if the light doesn't work, check the plug. It's the common sense things. And then go into exploring the green prescriptions, the lifestyle prescriptions, and taking it deeper. Another thing that I came across is the chiropractic point of view. And this is really interesting because they deal with the nervous system all the time. And their premise is function governs, structure governs function. And this could be something that obviously people who do body work, and I do body work, you look at the physical body and see what is affecting the rest of the organs. And it might be that, as a kind of like with functional medicine, there is a protocol. It might be in your practice you think, you know what, this person needs possibly checking out, is there something going on in their spine? And the lifestyle prescription is send them off to an osteopath or a chiropractor. They can check out the nervous system. Is there something in their back being compressed that is affecting the liver or the bladder or the whatever? And check those out first. That is a lifestyle prescription. We are not having to solve everybody's life and problems ourselves. Remember, we can take on a coaching role. And as a coach, you don't have to know everything. It's really important that you can know how to refer on, what you can do as well. I'm kind of talking through a whole lot of my slides at this point, but we'll skip things. No, don't worry. We'll skip things as we get to them if I've covered them. So, yes, also, and just, are they allergic to something? You know, they could have an allergy. Now, that is a whole nother field in itself. But it could be that, you know, the red eyes are because this tree is blooming. And then you can look at, you know, there's lots of ways to look at allergies and things, as you all know, in different modalities. So that's the common sense. And we all have heard about what green prescriptions and lifestyle prescriptions are. They're not green, as far as I'm concerned. Lifestyle prescriptions include green prescriptions, and we just take it a little further, really focusing on the emotional impact, the beliefs, the patterns. We look for patterns in our responses. You know, what has happened again and again. And I'll actually talk through a couple of examples as well. Okay, yeah, let's go on to 2 because I think we've kind of, okay, thank you, Johannes. So the awareness, I think all of us have brought that up, is awareness of what is going on in our bodies, because so often we just go and say, fix me, give me a pill. This is the culture that we have been brought up in, that we will get a quick fix with virtually no responsibility on our side at all. It's my responsibility is getting to be in front of our doctor, who will then fix me, or in front of our therapist, who will then fix me, because we use natural medicine often as an allopathic treatment. And I think we don't give our actual body enough of a voice, enough of a chance to heal itself through creating an environment that is more conducive to a healthy body. You know, we want to fix it first, but what we do is we listen. We want to hear, what are the emotions involved? What are the beliefs? It's really important that we find those out. As Johannes and both of our other speakers have said, there's so much evidence out there Candace Pert, years ago, 20 years ago, she wrote, what was it called? Molecules of Emotion. Fabulous information. And there's loads of evidence to show how our physiology is affected by emotions. So with this, the awareness, so we work with education. Awareness is education, isn't it? So educating our client, how do we do that most effectively? And I know I find myself saying the same thing to everybody. And I was actually just talking to you, Rob, before about what is coming in through James Maskell is, you know, having groups. And I think a lot of progressive medical practices also, where they will bring in a group of clients, and they will then discuss asthma, arthritis, and educate them all. You know, what is the best thing to do? More exercise, less exercise? What sort of nutrition works best with this? And then we can focus on each person as well. But then you get the general information out there to everybody. And they've got a community to work with as well. So, okay, so we will bring awareness and we reframe, release, and we retrain. The reframing is so important. If you've got a belief, that's, as we said before, that's the proof you're going to see of what life is, because we see it through that framework of reference. And if we change that, if we reframe that, life can change dramatically. It's our perception, all about perception. Like your excellent question about, you know, 2 people, but actually I was going to say that later, 10 people can see the same thing, and we'll all have a different way of describing it, which means we've all had a different emotional response to it. And also different organs will respond. You know, if you respond with fear or anger or whatever, we'll get, you know, lungs or gut or bowel or whatever responding. Releasing. Now, this is where we can release the emotions if you are trained as any release, emotional release therapy. You can do it yourself, or what do? You refer on. This is the most important thing I think we must remember, is we don't have to do it all. You know, we just need to know how to get your client to their best health individually. And the retraining is the retraining the brain. And how do we do that? Either with the micro habits or with a major change. And people, some are just gung-ho and ready to change. They walk in and say, that's it, I've cleared my whole fridge out. I've thrown away everything with a preservative in it. I want to change. Yeah. But they have to have something, some backup, some support. How do I do it? Now what do I cook? You know, if they've lived on junk food all their lives, they don't know how to feed themselves. What do you suggest? You know, where do you send them to research it, to do whatever they need? So it's about support. And I absolutely am with you all about getting groups together of people growing and learning together. And we can be catalysts in our environment, in our communities. You were just saying to me how you've already brought your community together and given a lifestyle medicine talk. I think that's fantastic, you know, and just enthuse them and get them motivated, and also realize the power is in our hands. We are so disempowered with the system as it is. We don't have a say. We don't have the knowledge either of what is actually happening. And I think the empowerment of our clients is so important. Okay, so let's see what the next one says. This was, for me, when I started working with Johannes and this information, I realized through the information of every organ, tissue has its own response. And we can be really quite specific with that. Like when Johannes was saying a specific organ, a specific emotion, it is that specific. And we are not victims of just random illness, which is what most people think. I've been struck down with this. You know, I've got arthritis now. Okay, you've spent 50 years putting your life in a situation that's going to manifest it through all sorts of lifestyle bad choices, perhaps, maybe thoughts included in there. So every symptom is a meaningful biological process. And as you know, in functional medicine and in naturopathic medicine, and certainly in a lot of other modalities, is that our biology, as Johannes was saying, it is, think, what does it do? And then what is it now telling you that it can't do anymore? And then look deeper into your life. And this is profound for me. That for me was one of the major kind of ahas. And that's another thing, actually. When we have a really big aha, you shift your mindset and you never look at life again the same. You know, it's like you stretch that rubber band and and you can't ever get back into the little mold that you were before. So let's have a look. Yeah, okay. Go back one, thanks. I just want to say something else about this. On that very thing, I'm really keen that we, you must stop me because I'll just keep going if I'm on a roll. I'm very keen that we, as health professionals, keep learning, keep our minds awake and alert for new information that may be of use in your practice. Just for instance, this Tuesday, I had an email from What Doctors Don't Tell You, Lynn McTaggart, and she highlighted research from Boston University Medical Center, where they found that patients doing yoga and deep breathing exercises 2 or 3 times a week, I've lost my place, get better results than drugs for lifting major and chronic depression. Wow, that is a piece you can just give a client and say, you know what, how about looking at that? Because we don't have to know about how to deal with depression. I'm not a psychiatrist, or, I can't give drugs and things. But I found this research, maybe you'd find something really interesting. And how could you take that further? You see, a client will write their own lifestyle prescription very often. If you are coaching, health coaching them and guiding them through with the information that you know. And of course, sometimes they come up with a blank, and you can help. I mean, you can guide. That's the whole thing. This level of awareness, just one thing. Einstein said that a problem cannot be solved from the same place as it was created. And that's where, when we have that aha, we get a new perspective from a higher place. And that's where we can actually find solutions. Okay, so that next slide is just, let's go there, Johannes, thank you. Is what prescriptions could you bring in right now? Body movement. We've all said we need to move. I wrote down for my lifestyle prescription, I'm so wanting to get a desk I stand at, and you stand all day. And I'm earthed into the earth. I'm full of negative ions. So my body is like getting massive amount of antioxidants all the time. And it's just, that's what I need to get that and stand. I don't do enough movement. So movement of any type. And you ask the client, what do they like doing? You can't say, because I'm not a physical trainer. What do you like doing? What did you used to do? What would you like to do again in the future? Would you like to try something different? Maybe you can find something that will stimulate your body's immune system, or you might find that with knee joints, it might be better in water or something like that. It's very, very common sense information that you can often give them, but it's a point. And it's something you can do right away. Nutritional support, the same. We've spoken about that a lot today. I just loved that song, Rob. I just absolutely loved that Eagles song about the nutrition. And the organ-specific theme-related lifestyle prescription is what Johannes was mentioning earlier. And I said a little bit about it. We can be very, very specific about what we can offer a client with that through the body-mind social structure. Social, by the way, also is not just people, it's environment. Just remember, it's not just relationships, it's environment. And it's also, in the bigger picture, our relationship with the environment. So there's a responsibility as well from a higher place. There are many levels that we work on. We can work on a basic physical level where, you know, people are just not ready to even acknowledge that they have emotions. You know, like I always tease my husband, you know, this is him happy, him sad, him joyful. It's all going on inside. Always, you know, and I tease him, you know, is this your happy face? And some of us wear it on our sleeves, you know immediately what we're thinking and what we're feeling. Observation of patterns. Now, this is a lovely one to work with clients if you've got even just a minute, is to say to them, you know, when do you feel angry at you know, other times? If they've got a stomach problem, it's like, is there quite an anger in your life? Oh, well, yeah, you know, when do you feel angry? Just a simple thing like that starts connecting them with their physical, and then notice, do you get stomach pain before, during, after the anger? How far after? How far before? You know, and that kind of connection is really good for them to start connecting with their bodies, their physical bodies, and the emotion, because emotions equal physiology at the end of the day, you know, in a very simplified form. Change work, that doesn't mean change your job. That's when we do change work, internal change work, to reframe beliefs, to release traumatic emotions that are locked, frozen in our physical bodies when we experience either a real trauma or a perceived trauma. Because as we said before, you know, something that is incredibly traumatic to me may be absolutely nothing to you. It's our frame of reference. And it's all individual, nearly. Okay, thank you. And of course, our daily micro habits. That's where amazing work can happen. Because if you think about it, you know, like a clock turns, you know, with all those cogs. You turn one little cog over here, and it's a huge effect at the end. It's all change. So if you do those, it's like drip, 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 drip. Water can drip through rocks. Okay, so don't go there any further, Johannes. I think I just want to tell you, there was just something I wanted to say here. I'm just going to do one case study of a not so obvious way to use a lifestyle prescription, or any prescription. It's with a client I had who had mumps, young girl, 23. And a lifestyle prescription or any green prescription is very easy if it's a chronic pattern. But if you get a one-off pattern, like mumps, I mean, we hopefully don't get that too often in our lives, what do? Is there a way, or do we just go, oh, well, I'll just do the, you know, I'll fix it kind of thing, or we just let it run its course, or we just raise the vitality with nutrition or something, which are all good. So with the analysis based on the body-mind social connection, I'm just trying to shorten this here for you. So, story. Her boyfriend cheated on her and she was unable to accept that information. Okay. So the glands in here where the mumps are, the parotid and all these glands, I'm sorry. In a hurry, parotid, sublingual, whatever, maxillary. The duct swells up and the gland expands with the saliva. It can't get out. So that's what we were looking at, what she had. She was in a state of, her words, because I say, well, what are you feeling? Just tell me what's, because he's in her head, monkey mind. And she said, I just can't swallow this. It just sticks in my throat. She was using these words, you know, all around here. So of course, sticking in her throat, the saliva isn't there. You know, it's like not there to help this information. The man gave some kind of not really plausible excuse, and she accepted it because she wanted to stay in the relationship. But the interesting thing is that with the lifestyle prescription, for her in this case, was in the form of addressing the beliefs, because the beliefs jumped out at me. What she said was, well, I'm not good enough for him. That's why he went somewhere else. I just can't keep a man. Men are not faithful to me. I don't deserve him anyway. So the lifestyle prescription in that kind of case would be something like, how would these beliefs play out in your future life? And would they serve you? And what she might say back to me, which she did, is, well, I could sabotage relationships and leave them so I am not left first, as it were. I could be on my own all my life as a result of this. And then ask, well, how would you prefer to be? And these are things you can either do over time or all in the session. And she said, well, I realized that he was an idiot to do that, and in the end, he lost me because of it. He was obviously not the man I need to be with, as he is untrustworthy. I can do much better than that, and will address this feeling of unworthiness, because that was the core. You see, there was something else going on there. And this is where you can use this to not just leave, oh, okay, she's fine now, but what are the beliefs? What are the emotions? How are they affecting? How could they affect? And you get people sometimes 20 years later, and you can follow this pattern because it's a recurring trigger. I'm going to stop now. Has that been useful? Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I don't know how that.
Yeah. Okay, are you still fit for a little Q&A? Yeah? So maybe we put a few chairs here and sit here, the four of us, and maybe just think until we're ready, think about some of the questions you might have, and then we do another few questions, 10 minutes or so. And I hope it's okay with the mic situation here, because we have internet and local, so I think I just have to do it this way. I'm gonna walk around and do this for you. So we also check online, obviously, you know, if there are questions online, and we will try to answer them. So who wants to be first? And if you can keep it short, I repeat the question so we see it also, we hear it online. Okay, he wants to be first. Question? Yes. Oh, yeah. So actually, by the way, before I forget, everyone gets emails of the next few days, probably next week, not next few days, but next week, about some of the PowerPoint, some of the links, right? And just let us know if you need anything like this link from the Boston research, which is really amazing. So
It's Boston University Medical Center.
But we send that link to via email.
That I got from the What Doctors Don't Tell You.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay,
yeah.
good. I'm going to sneak behind you. Okay, other questions, please.
It's the yoga one, because I sometimes come to contact with people from a very religious perspective, and yoga just a no-go for them. Absolutely. So it's finding different things.
So the question, let me repeat the question, please, so everybody hears it online also.
I know that any form of exercise is going to help me keep up a lot. But there's certain people, certain religions that will not. 7 days Adventists, they will not. They don't want to hear about yoga.
Right. Okay, so let me please repeat. So the question was, if somebody, let's say, yoga would be a thing to do, yeah, and then certain religious reasons they don't. But there are many other forms of exercise that I think yoga is the uniqueness that it's conscious exercise with breath and movement and mindfulness. So there's many other options, and I think what Annie was saying, we're always saying, it's being very specific, individual, finding whatever works for them. I believe exactly, yeah. Yes.
I have a question. Sorry, it sounds a bit stupid, but I'm an arrhythmia specialist. I'm a doctor, and I'm just trying to figure out where exactly is the scope of practice of the lifestyle prescription. Is it in the prevention? Is it in the treatment? In the rehabilitation? So, because it makes in my practice, it's really difficult for me to making lifestyle prescriptions if I'm missing and some symptoms, you know what I mean? So for someone that is a coach, someone that is say not a doctor, it might be a bit easier, but for us, where is our scope of practice? Is it everywhere? You can always do lifestyle prescription, and I'm very scared of missing an important diagnosis if someone comes to me without getting rushed right now. It's not the case because I'm still in the hub anyway. So am I just missing an important autoimmune condition like lupus, or is it because this little baby having lost their mum?
Right. So the question was basically, what's the scope of practice as a medical doctor? And it is not an easy question. I mean, not an easy answer, actually, because we are in a system that is somehow, often they still, to combine the traditional with the more integrative lifestyle is not an easy thing right now. I agree. But I think all we're trying to say today really is that, looking beyond the physical side of it, the biochemistry, and looking into the mind and social components, and if it's not possible with a network, with your own network to work with more the lifestyle medicine, create one that, for example, having a health coach you can send someone to. But I think that's a bigger question that all of you like you to answer, if you don't mind.
No, I do agree that it's along every area where you can use a prescription. So you might see something when you're doing a diagnosis that would be helpful, like they're describing to you that they're eating junk food all day long, then you know that would be something, one small thing that they can do that can change the outcomes. And if they tell you that they're in isolation because their family moved, you can encourage more community activities. So it is something that you can do yourself when you hear something that seems obvious to you, or something that you can refer out if you feel that, they have bad posture and they can use someone that can help them with spinal issues, etc. So it's kind of having it in the back of your mind and seeing where it's applicable and how you can use it to help them, especially if you see them time and time again, you might see some patterns being repeated.
Yeah, but I guess this is, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess this is also a bit tricky because I say that exactly the same way as you do, but someone else might think it's nothing to do with any diagnosis. There's no big problem behind that. It's just you just need to eat more veggies, and you have a big problem. So I believe that we also need to set up the roots of education. Yes, and the roots of where lifestyle prescriptions are applicable, and because not everyone will be okay.
Yeah, you mean patients, right? You mean patients. Yeah. Okay. So actually, Dr. Lawson, I'd like to ask you, because that is very much from a medical doctor perspective. So I guess I reframe the question a little bit, which is, so there are, how many doctors are in the UK? I don't know, 50,000 plus. So if they are in a situation like this, they want to start right now integrating lifestyle medicine somehow. How would you answer that? What kind of advice can you give at this point? Also addressing the question that she had. So I give you both here.
Well, thank you. It's a very topical question. It's the way you think, isn't it? It's the way we think. We are thinking people. We are educated in a certain way. And I think the point has been made that how we're educated is an issue. We are very pharmacocentric, the way we're taught. We're not taught about nutrition. I went through university, medical school, I don't think anybody ever mentioned nutrition. So going right back to the beginning, it is certainly an education, but we've also got to start thinking differently. In a 10-minute appointment, there's plenty of evidence that brief interventions do make a difference. So you can actually start the conversation. And as I don't know, is it GP that you're in? Are you in job, right?
I'm training to
cardiology. The continuity bit is the good bit in British primary care, anyway, is that you likely are going to see the same person. So you're going to get that support that was mentioned while making these changes. But there is another way, and I briefly mentioned it, and it's called shared medical appointments or group consultations, where instead of you repeating yourself time and time again, then you're in a contact with 14, 15 other people. You're having a one-to-one consultation. But how that individual has responded, if you like, there are 14 other people in the room that have their own contacts, and they share it. And so you get the peer-to-peer support, the peer-to-peer education. It's a completely different way of practicing, but there's a very large evidence base to suggest it is actually better than the one-to-one that we have been brought up with as physicians. So I think that you're already more than 50% of the way there. You're already thinking differently. And that's what we have to do. We have to think differently as people who are delivering the healthcare, and not to be so frightened. We need to be a bit more liberated. Yeah.
Can I just thank you, Dr. Lawson. Just one thing, I don't know if any of you saw the program on TV. We had a double, the doctor who gave up drugs, Dr. Christopher Tollikin. Yeah. Do you remember how much difficulty he had convincing the patients to actually, I mean, he was sitting there with nobody there, you know, and it was like, come and have a consultation. And they were, you know, and one of them said, well, I've come in with this and I want to go home with an antibiotic. And it's patient-led. And this is how they've been brought up, you know, never mind how we've been trained, or, you know, as doctors. So it's both sides need education. Is Michael Tuppensworth? Yes. Thank you.
Can I just say something? That doctor
Yes.
was speaking about, I wrote to him because I thought, you know what, he's got influence. He can actually influence because he's on television, right? And I wrote to him and I said, listen, if you need help, let's band together. I haven't heard a peep from him. But it's that kind of persistence that we need to have, because one day he's going to respond.
Oh,
we wanted him to have the meeting. I was straight on these people who've got platforms and voices to speak out. And
well, look at Dr. Chatterjee. He is speaking out.
So let me repeat the question. So the question was, in a way, like, you know, there's the ones that will go out there and educate others, you know, to work together. I think that's very important. And I think also
he's got an agent who makes tons of money.
Let me say something to that. Let me say something, because I think that lifestyle medicine practitioners should make a lot of money.
Why not?
You know why? Because if they do, that means it's successful. More people go into lifestyle medicine. I think it's the reality we live in, if we like it or not. But I think that's a good thing.
Because
you know,
affect 1 billion people.
And that's what Rangan Chatterjee is doing. He did the doctor in the house.
Yes. So he showed on TV how you can reverse diabetes, and now he's brought the functional forum here to the UK so that he can bring more practitioners together and form more of a community. So it's all about us doing that in our neighborhood, whether that's in the Whole Foods or whether that's in a gymnasium somewhere. Bring it in, show people how to cook, show people how they can do easy things every day to make themselves healthier.
Okay, let's do one more question, please. Yes.
So one of the things which you've mentioned is the social, but we haven't specifically spoken about therapeutic relationships. And to my mind, that's like absolutely the core and the hardest thing for us to get hold of is our sort of psychosocial interactions with other people. So I'm just putting that back out. That's really just conservation. Is that relationships are absolutely key.
Relationships.
We are in our society, actually.
Right. So relationships are key, and the societies we build or the communities we build. Absolutely. Thank you. So one more question. Yeah.
Say one thing. It's not a question.
Okay.
It's the alternative label. You get labeled as alternative, and it's traditional. It's, if you look back over hundreds of years, what we do is traditional medicine. It's not alternative. It's just going back to basics. It's common sense, but sense isn't common. So, you know.
Actually, let me ask Dr. Lawson again about that. I'm sorry, you're popular. No, about that concept and about, you know, being often labeled as too alternative and it's not evidence-based and all that. And what would you suggest to GPs or health professionals in general? how to address that, or how can we improve that as we go along with this on this journey?
I don't like the term alternative. I don't mind the term complementary. I'm going to upset a lot of doctors here. In the medical profession, we do have a slight arrogance. We think we're right and everybody else is wrong. It's not bad to actually broaden our vision a bit. I think it's beginning to happen. I'm whispering that, but I think it is beginning to happen, which is good for everybody. There are some people who will not change. You know, the evidence has to be there, and it has to be the evidence that they believe in, and it was done in an appropriate way. We saw from the video about the nutrition, about randomized controlled trials, cohort studies, and all the rest of it. Generally speaking, you can find evidence to suit the particular belief you happen to have. So we have to look at, in my view, the 80% that we do agree on, everybody agrees on, and let's work together on that bit and tolerate and be mutually curious of everything else that goes on in a respectful kind of a way.
I think that was absolutely perfect. Everybody online for being here, spread the word. And all I'm going to say is watch out for an email, right? You get the PowerPoint, you get the information about the links we shared, and stay engaged, okay? Stay engaged, get out there, educate people around you, and we're going to make a difference. Okay? Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Close completely.